Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here and really appreciate you taking the time today to listen to the story of Lime. So today I want to going to be sharing with you a little bit story and the journey of Lime, which is 21 months old company. That we're really a young company. But then the topic today is not about just Lime. The topic is about a lot of impossibles. That impossible of a company can do well and then do good at the same time. The impossible, scenario of how a company can grow really fast, while that not crash in cities or do the things that the cities or community doesn't want it. And I think the story is about can we reinvent the urban transportations, right? That can we build step by step towards what a modern urban transportation will look like, and can we fight against all the challenges we have, commonly in the city. So I think I noticed that a lot of people have heard about Lime. There are not many that have tried it. I think it's due to availability issues that in the cities you live in or working, but we're working on that, so rest assured on that. First of all, right, the micro trend of urbanization, that is non-stoppable. And I think that trend is going to happen regardless what. And then the second part that comes with it is the traffics and the pollutions that everyone experiences on a daily basis. And some choose to ignore it. But it's happening, and I think that it was just getting worse and worse. And when we look at globally, that in terms of the traffic and pollutions or that, in the past, the solution is to throw more car at it, right? Let's build more road. Let's throw more cars at it. That doesn't solve the problem. It actually makes it worse. I think I've been living in a Bay Area for about 15 years. I can clearly notice how the change has been happening over time, and many of the in the audience probably experienced the same. But then when we look at it, what is the most efficient way to get around for first and last mile? If we look at the data, shows that 70% of the traffic in the U.S. Is a single occupancy, and also that 50% plus of them are less than a mile. And you put that two together, that do we really need to drive a 7-seater SUV to get around, go to work, or just buy groceries, or even just grab a coffee? And the answer probably is no. And it's not about only just the cost, it's about pollutions, it's about shared space, how we can utilize them. It's about the cost effectiveness. And it's also a matter of fact that about how we connect to the communities, how do we connect with each other, how we stay healthier, active, and more social. And for me, that something went wrong. I grew up in China, and bike was a form of transportation for us to get around, and not only in high school but also in college. And even after I moved here, I still own like about 8 to 9 different bikes. I get around anytime I could on a bike, and that's my form of transportation, right? And is that only true for China, which is known for the kingdom of bicycle? Then we look around the globe. That's UK, that's Amsterdam, that's Copenhagen, that's many other places. That's bike and alternative transportation is a norm of transportation. But why that is not the case in the US? If we look at Amsterdam or Copenhagen, they're definitely leading the trend with 30-40% of the transportations are on bikes and alternative modes of transportations. And in the US, the number is 1%, right? That 1% number, then we got to ask ourselves, right, that is the weather here worse than Amsterdam? Is the road here narrower than Amsterdam? And what is the reason? What stops us from adopting more? Right, cars and cultures, and that's the only thing. It's not that we're, that there's no, it's not there's a real blocker from us to get there. Then it's really perceptions, cultures, cars, and do we embrace it? And then we look at it, what are the things that we can help users, can help our community to get over the hurdle? Now, the way to convince them to use it or adopt it is not like, say, you're doing a noble thing, therefore you have to put in twice as high the price and then do twice as much effort to make it happen. The better way to convince people is to, why don't we provide you a service, a solution that's faster and cheaper and more convenient. That is the way that we think will generate a massive behavior shift and really make it happen, right? Our goal is not about the 1% of bike traffic in the US, that how much market share we can get. Our goal is that how we push that 1% to 10%, to 20%, dare we say to 50% of the traffic. And that's the 50% of the traffic in the US city today, less than 1 mile. And is single occupancy. There's no reason we cannot do that other than we're working together. So with that in mind, when we look at the market, right, that the first and last mile is, from a business perspective, that if we want to have a business that's sustainable, that can really push for big vision and big goals, it has to have the economic, foundation for it. So we look at the market. Is there a market? Is there big enough to support it, or the R&D goes into it, or the efforts, or the team are going to build, and is there a market that that the users are feeling that pain point on a daily basis, and that is the 300 million trip on a daily basis in the U.S. that we're talking about. And just as a reference, that Uber and Lyft doing about 10 million trips on a daily basis, and this is a market that we're looking at is 30x bigger than that. So when we get started, right, that we were called many times we're the crazy ones. That someone would say, oh, this thing has been tried before, right? Nobody use it. But is that really users don't want to use it, or is that the product design, the technology available at the time, or the pricing point doesn't make sense? And city bikes and Ford bike. How many tried Ford bike? Okay, how much you paid for it? It's $10 a day, right? $9 or $10 a day. In New York, is a little bit more expensive. Why you walk a couple blocks trying to take a bike out of the dock, and also you have to walk a couple blocks when you get there, return it, and pay more than the Uber? It just doesn't make sense. And that's on top of that, you probably also realize you paid for it already. So that's $50 million tax dollars to build that thing. And only in CBD areas, right? If you're in the neighborhoods, good luck. You will never find one. And so those are the things that is not user don't want it. It's the product at that time was not ready for a massive adoption. It's the design of the system for the convenience and the pricing point that is not there. So when we start a company, we focus on the 3 A's. I made it simple for my team. The accessibility, availability, and affordability. If one of that is not there, we cannot expect a user willing to pay, twice as more expensive than an Uber ride in order to support it. That's just not logical. So those are the 3 things we work on and to solve that problem. And the second part is like, this thing will, the business model will never work. That will burn money like hell. But we validated that wrong too. I think for the right product, right experience, and also the efficiency we provided to the users, that the users are more than happy to pay. So you probably noticed a few things that there are a lot of social media posts about Lime, right? That you probably see online on Twitter, on Instagrams, on Facebook or whatnot, right? Raise your hand if you saw a single user said Lime product is too expensive. There's just not. That is the amazing thing that we delivered over 20 million trips ever since we launched the first market. I yet to see one person say Lime is too expensive. And also users are really embracing it by not only writing it, also share on all kinds of social medias, that the fun they have, the time they save, the efficiency that they generated, and also kind of like the memory they record as a kid, or the proudness of that they contributed to saving the traffic, and also to reduce the pollution, right? What is the last time you saw someone jump on in an Uber and take a selfie? Raise your hand. I think that's the difference. That we're providing the value, but also beyond that, we help the user to recognizing that they're also contributing to reducing the traffic and contributing to reducing the pollutions. And that is what we're proud of as a company. It's not only about Lime, it's the movement we're generating. And it's some of the perceptions, some of the culture, behavior shift that we hope to push forward. And the third thing that, they end up on the trees, they end up in the lake. It did happen in different markets. We found our bikes and scooters end up like all kinds of different things. But I think that's a challenge that there's always the small percentage of bad actors that will do crazy things. Should we be deterred from it? Should we punish the 99% by just owning the damage done by the 1%? We as a company that we think is the only right thing to do is we focus on the majority of the good actors rather than punish everyone because of there's 1% bad actor out there. We will be punished by that. A lot of system designed in the world is not about how do we give the 99% good actors the good, the best experience and the most efficient and most value-adding experience. It's designed to prevent that 1%, and everyone else got punished. So that, I think, it can be solved by technologies. We can further improve on that, and that could be further solved by educations. I'll give you one example of that. We all went through the security check at the airport, right? I'm not saying we should take that system out, don't get me wrong. But the reality is, by being all the good actors, by participating in the program in order to ensure that we're all safe, we are punished by the potentially 1% of bad actor out there. It's necessary for us to ensure the safety and the securities of that, but that means we lined up, every single one of us went through the security check, the back checks, and take off your shoes, take off your belt. It's not, we're all punished by that. So I think there are good reasons for the system to be in place, but in our case that, can we solve it by technology? By sensors, by detections, by user reports or that, rather than make it rather difficult to use, just like the dock-based system. It's not a good user experience. It doesn't take you to your destinations. If you cannot return to the dock, you got penalties. And by being a good actor. So then we look at what do we do, right? That we as a company, we didn't start as a bike share company or scooter share company. We tried and tested all kinds of products and to fit in the different user cases. So we started with bike, we added e-bikes to it, and then we launched the scooters, and now we're going to launch the shared cars and to accommodate different user cases, different use need. And this is the way that we see that we as a company, not a product company, but we are rather a user company that provided what the user needed. And it always will be free-floating, take you end-to-end, and also will be much cost-effective. So again, goes back to the three things that we focus on: very accessible, and very available, and also very affordable. And this is the way that we create a value for the users and convince them that this is the right thing to do, rather than hey, can you spend twice as more in order to support it because we are a good company. I don't think that's a logical way to do business. And there you go. The 3 A's we focus on, and also that for the company, the mission for the company that I summarize as 3 E's. I simplify everything so my whole team will easy to remember. That my goal is that any employee of Lime, if you ask them the question, they will give you an answer immediately. So the 3 E's as our mission in this mission statement is efficiency, eco-friendly, and also enjoyable. And we do the things that to make 3 things happen at the same time. And here is a animation of how we power the city of Paris. We not only connect the entire city together. This is the rendering of 16 hours. So we're not only connecting them all together, but also that we cover a lot of neighborhoods are traditionally considered as transportation desert. There's no public service. Uber driver doesn't want to go there, and all kinds of things. And same as many other cities we launch with. So we're not just a replacement of the cars that users take, but also we're a complementary system to the existing system. That in Paris alone, that we're powering over 30,000 trips on a daily basis. And the fun factor is that we launched over 12 countries in the last 3 months. And New Zealand is one of the market, very interesting. We're App Store ranking #1 in New Zealand. And it took us 24 hours to get there, that without any marketing. Literally, we launched and we're #1 and we stay #1 ever since. So that's how users want it, right? Not by attracted by marketing, but really by their daily need and daily demand. And out of the use cases, that 34% of our users are using it to replace car trips that they would otherwise that are using a car. Either driving their own car or using the car share service. And out of 17%, they're replacing the public transit. But also, this is not entirely a replacing. We also helped increasing the utilization on the public transit because we have the solution for the first and last mile, which is the biggest challenge for public transit. And 40% of the users end up or started from public transit. So it's very complementary to the system. And 37% that use that to replace long walking. This one is a little bit debatable. Right? Is that really good thing or bad? But I would say, though, users choose to use them, that is to save time. And that time could be shifted to do other things like exercising. So it's a better option for the user to optimizing their daily work and also time. And then the other part of that is, in terms of like the walking side, for the business, on the business side, right? This is a market can never be monetized before. There's an entire blue ocean that never be monetized before. It's not because it cannot be monetized. It's there's no right product and business model to do that. But the last piece is a little bit controversial, right? Maybe when it comes to transportation, we're just lazy. We just want to get there instead of putting the work. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but I think that we are not here to determine how users live their life. We're here to provide options for them to choose from, and that's the option that we provide them. It doesn't not prohibit the user from walking, but it does provide the option if they want to get there faster. Right? To me, that's one of the things that I struggle on a daily basis when I'm in San Francisco, running between the meetings and come to the public transit. So we launched the first market in June last year, and we're roughly about 1 year and 4 months ever since we launched the first market. And now we're in over 140 markets. And as I mentioned, that we're in 12 countries already. And we're ranked really high in almost all the countries we launched with. And this is based on zero marketing. So we don't even have an internal marketing team, right? And a lot of people ask me, what is your CAC, right? Anyone in entrepreneurship that knows what CAC is, right? Okay, so what is your cost of acquisition? And my answer is zero. We don't have user acquisition cost. But I think that is the really focusing on the real world challenge. That really focus on the value addings is the best user acquisition strategy. We generate over 20 million trips, as I mentioned, and we're generating users and the trips way faster than Uber or Lyft or whoever it is in the past. And in terms of the revenues, that we're probably one of the fast ever growing company in the history. So if you compare from the market launch to first 100 million, 200 million, 300 million revenues, that's the projection. That's what we got so far. That's the projection looks like. Again, that this is on top of that we didn't even spend marketing dollar to acquire users. The mission for Lime, again, that is not a bike share company, not a scooter company, but a more urban living, platform, if you would. I think when it comes to technology and how that will impact our life, right? There's always the left and right, and the debates on technology is adding values, technology is taking away our social time, technology is drawn us into the digital medias and forget about family and all that stuff. And at Tencent, that all we do is about online life, right? I'm proud of that experience, learned a lot from it. But for Lime and for the things we're doing here is all about how we leverage technology to empower users' real-world life, to make it better, more connected, well-educated, informed, more efficient, more enjoyable, and more eco-friendly. So we started with transportation that it gets user from A to B. But the user go out for a reason, right? You don't go out just for go out. You go out to work, you go out to school, to lunch, to dinner, to meeting friends, to bars, to coffee, to groceries. And the next step for us is how do we help them to connect that piece, in terms of the user being more informed, be connected, and also much more, again, more efficient and more enjoyable. And that will be the next chapter for Lime, in terms of the product roadmap. And these are just some of the photos from our users all over the place that you probably find millions of them online. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, that was the only slide I did. So when I was, okay, I'm gonna speak here, I will do one slide, right? And then what does the slide will look like? And that's the slide. The slide is that, okay, what do we do things differently? Well, I think not necessarily differently from every single other companies, but different that we think that help us to really get so far where we at. Focus on the long term that determines how we make decisions and determines that how we do things that are a little bit, I won't say abnormal, but we take always a harder path. That we don't hack things. We don't take shortcuts. We're a company we're proud of that we are a company without shortcuts. That building the scooter, for example, and also bikes, that all the other companies just buy off-the-shelf product, right? Literally, you place the order, you have Amazon Prime, tomorrow you have the scooter you can launch. And it took us much longer time to build a custom-built hardware that is long-lasting, extra safe, and also that is more durable. And it's good for the users, and good for the cities since we have more advanced sensor on it. And we can, detect the scooter fell over, we can know where they are, and we can make sure that the fleet is well maintained, and also the better experience for the user that's much safer. It's a much harder path that we took, and we did it. And when it comes to city, all the wise advices we got at the time is, hey, Uber got a playbook, right? Why don't we just go in and just dump millions of scooters on the street and win that market, right? Argue about that later. And we deliberately didn't do that. It's a harder path. It took us 6 months to get the first market. A city agreed upon that and then give us the permit to launch. That is another hard path that we took, and there are many examples like that. That I think that when it focus on the long term, that really help us to decide what is the right thing to do, and to do the right things. Right, that's one part of it, and I think that is very critical for us, or the matter of any companies. Right, that how do we know what the thing is right or wrong? In many cases, we know it's right or we know it's wrong, but if we don't look at it from a long-term perspective, it could be very tempting. There are a lot of things are very tempting if you look at it short-term wise, but long-term wise, that is wrong. So I think that is one of the principles for the company when we make decisions, that we always tended to take the harder path, tended to ignore some so-called best practices out there. It's not because we're stubborn, it's that we focus on the long term. And then the second thing is to do the right things, as I mentioned, right? We did a few other things. For whoever that rode city bike and Ford bike in the past, or whatever, bike rentals or scooter rental in the past, you were never insured. And that was a surprise come to us when I was researching the industry. The whole industry has been around, the bike industry has been around for about 200 years. The bike rental business has been around roughly about 200 years. Nobody insured the users. And we look at it legally, no, that's not required, right? For all the historical reasons that insurance is not required for bike rentals and scooter rentals. But is that the right thing to do? I don't think so. So we were the first one that actually bought insurance for our users to champion that in the entire industry. Now it becomes more and more a standard for every single company that follows into it, that they should provide insurance. do we incur more cost, right? We can't even find a underwriter. When we talk to the insurance company, they were like, what are you talking about, right? There's no such a thing in the history. We never underwrite a bike rental insurance. It just never be required, and nobody proactively provided, and we did, right? We provided also cash payment for the non-smartphone, non-banking users, and the analysis shows we're not going to make any money out of it, but that's the right thing to do. And same as why we further enhance our products, why we added advanced safety features to it, and those are the things that if we look at the short term, it's not necessarily help us in the typical fundraising things or that, right? But that's the right thing to do, and that's what we did it. And with the bracket in there that we don't know all the time what is the right thing to do, right? We try, we learn, we failed, and we correct them. But at least one thing we know is what is the wrong thing to do, not to do. And one of that is if the vehicle is not safe, we shouldn't put it on the street, right? And we should correct any mistake that we found as soon as possible. So I think that is one of the guiding principles at least for me as a person and hopefully for my team to go forward. And passion is another thing that I think that really matters when it comes to entrepreneurship or that. Someone can follow what is the hottest trend and suffer ever since, right? Or someone can really follow their passion and enjoy it ever since. I think entrepreneurship, to me, that is not measured by, whether it's a fancy, glamorous CEO or founder or that. Entrepreneurship is not measured by whether it's a billion-dollar company or how much you earn from that. It's really measured by self, satisfaction. And also measured by the impact that each of the person, each of the company, each of the role in the team that made. And that, to me, that really matters a lot. And that's what we believe in as well. And then immerse with great people. And that I benefited a ton of. I think life is a learning. Life is a learning process. Life is a journey of absorbing good things and get rid of the bad things. And that I learned a lot. Be at the right place and working in the industries or stuff that you're passionate on, and also just be immersed with great people is something that I think is very helpful when it comes to entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurs, that one character, if you know or maybe you guessed, is actually very lonely. That you're by yourself in many cases. There are tough decisions, there are tough times that even sometimes the investor is not fully aligned with you, right? Some of the team is not, necessarily agree upon. So the lonely moment that, and there are always key decisions to be made. And in those cases that the great mentors that I had in the past, that I learned from, the great mentors that gave me, the guiding principles. Nobody can tell everyone how to live their life. But a lot of the principles that does apply. So I benefit a lot from that, and I think that's one of the suggestions I would give, right? If anyone asks me that, what are the things that advices I would give, and that's my one of my advices to the young entrepreneurs or whoever it is. And the last piece that we're very proud that the Stanford as a school is our investor, the engineering school is our investor, the business school is our investor, the law school is our investor, and StarX is our investor. But we're not allowed to operate here yet. So that we respect the school's decision. I think there are many other considerations, but I do hope that Lime will have the opportunity to serve the community here.